We need to do virtual. So I have a statement right here. Welcome, everyone. Welcome to the July 10th, 2024 meeting of the Central Virginia Transportation Authority Finance Committee. We're going to have one person that will be participating remotely, and we'll get that to in a minute, but we're actually going to rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. All right. I received one request from Mr. Moyer to participate remotely, and I have approved the request to participate. It actually conforms to our policy. I think it requires a vote.
Yes.
So I have a motion to, and a motion as a matter of fact. So I have a motion to approve my authorization.
So moved.
Have a second.
Second.
A motion is made to allow Mr. Moyer to participate remotely and to uphold the decision of the chair. There's a proper motion, proper second. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Ayes carry. Good to see you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you. Good to be seen.
I can relate to that as well. Has everybody had an opportunity to review the agenda? And if so, do we have any amendments to the agenda? I'm sorry? Oh, actually, yeah, let's do a quorum, please. Confirm.
All right, Chesterfield County Chair Carroll.
Here.
Henrico County Vice Chair Nelson. Here. New Kent County, Mr. Moyer.
Here.
Powhatan County, Mr. McClung.
Here.
City of Richmond, Mayor Stoney.
Here.
And Commonwealth Transportation Board, Mr. Davis.
Here.
Thank you, Beck. We do have a quorum.
Thank you. Back to meeting agenda. Does anybody have any amendments? If not, we'll consider the agenda to be approved. Has anybody had an opportunity to review the minutes that were sent out on the June 12th, 2024 meeting, which is included in the package on page 4? Does anybody have any amendments to the minutes? And if not, I would entertain a motion to approve the minutes.
So moved. Second.
I have a motion made to approve and a second. Any discussion? Not seeing or hearing any discussion. All those in favor of approval of the minutes signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Ayes carry. It's appointing the opportunity in the meeting for an open public comment period. It's an opportunity for the community to address any issue that they may or may not have that they would like to bring forward to the CVTA. I don't know that we have anybody online that wants to participate. Is there anybody in the audience that would like to address the CVTA this morning? Okay, not seeing anyone coming forward or motioning or showing even a hint of interest. I'm teasing. We have no one coming forward to speak. We'll close the public comment period. Next on the agenda is the Finance Committee Chair's report. Real short report, nothing to report. How about that? Very short report today. The last, I think, thing that we participated in was the joint meeting that was here, and I thought that went very well. And I think most everybody who was here had actually participated in that. Executive Director's report, Mr. Parsons.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Just one item to report, and actually referring back to the minutes from the last meeting. As you all recall, Ms. Farmer, the CFO for VDOT, was here to give some more explanation and discussion about the revised revenue projections that we received, or that VDOT received from December. And as an update to that, I just wanted to actually reference you to page, it's actually marked as page 11 in the packet. The page 11 is what we have been working on as our assumption, and it's dated January 2024 at the top. And the revised following the new numbers from VDOT is on page 12, and that's labeled May 2024. The thing I wanted to point you towards is the December 2023 VDOT forecast, which is the first bolded column or bolded box on the top table. That's where we show the changes in the kind of the down cycle of revenue projections based on the latest information that we released, where you would see the total Central Virginia Transportation Fund revenues from January was listed at $1,657,600, and the revised is 15874. So slight decrease, and the impacts to that are shown in the rest of the table. This is just information at this point, and as we know, the assumption from the state is that this is a one-time issue that came about as a result of the final budget in May, not reflecting an assumed tax increase for online sales. And we don't expect this to happen again based on what we've heard from our partners at VDOT. So we'll be using the revised May 2024 information moving forward. Obviously, we'll get a new revenue projection next December that will update this data, and we'll see how those trends are lining up year over year.
I have a quick question.
Yes, sir.
In the report, it shows that the numbers here are in millions. And so for the years, it starts out with 2024 and 205.3 million, and the next year, 209 million. So the actual number you were talking about at the bottom is actually a reduction of 1.6 billion over the forecasted from 24 to 30 to actually 1.587.4 billion. Am I reading that correctly?
Yes, that is correct.
Okay.
I misspoke.
That's okay. Just wanted to make sure that would, for later, if anybody's watching this, that we make sure we have those numbers right. And so, and you can see that there's a slight decline from year to year. For example, the December projections from 2023 were for 2024 was 214.5 million, and now it's projected 209 million. So you can see where those projections have dropped a little bit, but overall, still, I think the numbers are still pretty strong, quite frankly, for regional transportation.
Yes, sir. Thank
Other
you.
board members, any comments? Anything else on your report?
No, sir, nothing.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Parsons. CVTA Tech Activities Report.
Yes, sir. This is actually on labeled page 8 in the agenda, so the next page. The green table that we all are very familiar with, the year-to-date and lifetime-to-date, the latest information we have. Actually, we got updated information yesterday, but this is February tax activity reported through May 31st of 2024. We continue to see strong numbers in terms of the revenues received. Lifetime to date, we are now at $358.8 million, including all three of the pots of funding, the regional fund, the GRTC fund, and the local distributions.
Where is that on the report? What page?
Page 8.
Page 8. Okay, got it. Thank you. Got it. And then the investment report?
Investment report is following. It's on page 9, and that's titled May 2024. We continue to see the interest earnings. We're now over almost to $11 million for FY24, so just the last 12 months. The yield is strong. Year-over-year change is positive on all of the different benchmarking, and our portfolio has outperformed all of the yield benchmarks and 2 of the year-over-year benchmarks for the month of May. So the high inflation rates that we're all experiencing continue to keep those short-term yields high, and we have not altered the investment policy and continue to work closely with Ms. Basie and her team in Chesterfield to make sure that those funds are going back to keep earning that interest.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Mayor?
I have a question for Mr. Parsons. and it's regarding the yield being so strong. That's a positive, obviously. But with, just looking at the 2024, knowing that we've seen the interest earnings so far exceed prior years, do we have a plan, or have we discussed a plan as an authority on how we go about applying, where we will apply those dollars in the future?
No, we have not had that formal discussion. I mean, I've been thinking about it and talking about it with the treasurer's team. But I would welcome that opportunity if you'd like to initiate something.
I just think that we should probably consider having that discussion. If we can bolster our debt reserve or whatever it may be, there could be some benefit to the long-term stability of the authority.
Other board members, any comments, questions? I think that's a good point. I think that we should look at, as you said, a percentage to reserve, and even a percentage to actually fund some of the projects that we may have seen an increase in cost, based on our initial forecasts. And we know that some of those projects have come at higher numbers. So it may be an opportunity for us to fix some of those issues, depending on what those numbers look like.
I think we can all, Mr. Chairman, appreciate the strength of these numbers, which, it's a good thing.
And we know it's not sustainable.
That's right. It's not a forever thing.
No, it's not.
So how do we go about protecting ourselves into the further out years? That's a discussion I think we should have.
I think it's a great discussion, and I think we can get that on, perhaps on an upcoming agenda for the Finance Committee. To be able to bring forward to the full committee for consideration, if we can look at some of the projects that we may be having some shortcomings with. Anything else?
Yes, sir.
All right, thank you. Now for our TAC activities report. Clark. Good to see you this morning.
Thank you. Good to see everyone. Good morning.
Good morning.
Diana Moore Clark here, City of Richmond, CVTA TAC Chair. I will be reporting from our Monday, July the 8th meeting that was held at 1 p.m. The TAC deferred the election of its officers. We thought that we could support the authority members better if we knew potentially who was going to be in the chair, with the full body having theirs delayed. So we're just deferring until August to select those officers. So I remain as chair one more month for you all. So what we discussed was the Fall Line Trail. And in particular to that, we talked about two items. The first item was the budgeted Fall Line recommendation letter. So there was a ask by the executive director to recommend from the technical side how we might spend the allocation of the $7.5 million that was given to us from the Virginia General Assembly. Leadership is again getting in front of it, and so that we can tell them where we might have the needs. So we just found out during the meeting that, and so TAC members, mainly Chesterfield and Richmond, have the remaining unfunded sections of the Fall Line Trail. So if wanting to do a project with these dollars, it would go to those because they're currently unfunded. But the TAC ranked its number one consideration was to fully fund the wayfinding plan, the implementation of that. And that was about $1.1 million. And also some other costs in regard to capital cost. And so we found out that the dollars are not eligible for wayfinding. And so I am gonna have a note there to come back to you. You all just talked about some extra interest money. And I just say that we would really much appreciate the 1.1 million. It's about 1.15 that we need to actually fully fund that. And that is through implementation in all of the localities of the Fall Line Trail. We think that it's very important because one, Henrico is already ready, set to go, and those funds are needed to actually put up. We have our Bryant Park trailhead. We're really ready to fabricate those signs, but there's no dollars baked into those segments that were funded to actually pay for the wayfinding. And so, leaving that aside, there were two sections. The Fall Line Trail Kanawha Plaza trailhead had a cost of $4.5 million that was unfunded. And then the Fall Line Trail Route 1, it also is, the cost estimate is coming in higher, about $3 million more. So together, those make the $7.5 million. And that is what TAC recommended is put into a letter and submitted to, is it VDOT check or?
Well, yes, well, Mr. Chair, we'll be putting together a draft letter for consideration at the August full authority meeting. And that letter will be sent to the Commonwealth Transportation Board, along with Mr. Davis, to make a request on behalf of the CVTA.
Okay,
Of what to do with that 7.5 million. So that is the one item we had. And then back to the wayfinding plan, again, that was approved at the TAC level. Again, this is very good for the authority in that we do have this large multi-million dollar investment, and then being able to make sure that it is consistent along the trail, I think is something that the authority would want for the trail. And therefore, the TAC, again, with finding out that those weren't eligible costs, did have me to ask and present to the Finance Committee that need of the $1.1 million. And so I did want to make that ask. And then finally, well, not quite finally, but the Fall Line Management, TAC came up with a way, we were going to put out a scope working with a small group of the TAC members that volunteered to really put out a scope that requests interested parties of managing the Fall Line to really tell us what their management plan would look like. I think that it's kind of hard for us to come up with a scope to tell them what we want when they do it. So maybe they can tell us what they can offer us in an informal submission of task or a management plan if they like to participate, in order for us to really be able to look at those and provide more guidance to the authority on how that may look or what we're getting, who's going to provide what. So that's our next steps on the management, the Fall Line Management. So we are moving that forward. And then finally, we did get the regional funding deallocation policy on the table for the TAC. And so we've committed to discussing that over the next month to really try and put some more of the procedures in place on the back end so that we can ensure that the top policy that the Finance Committee and the full body will approve is in line with everyone's intent. And so, again, we hope to have that done in a couple of months to give to the authority, if not less. We were asked to submit our FY25 local allocation plan. Again, that is just really taking those reduced numbers that Chet gave us today and applying those to our local formulas and seeing how much we will have annually to spend. And we give that plan to the authority as a due diligence, and this is what we're intending to do with the funds. And then we were also asked to submit the annual certification of the spending of local funds. Again, making sure we hit all of our audit and our requirements for the authority. With that, I can take any questions.
I had a question I've asked Mr. Parsons to answer. I had thought that in the past we had allocated funding for the Wayfinder plan.
And I'm sorry, we did. We fully funded the wayfinding plan. So that is what, and that was $74,000. That was the plan itself. That's what we approved. It's finished, and that will come before you all to see that final plan. But the plan really then has implementation. And the implementation of actually fabricating the signs and having them out there on the trail for every locality that's, the trail is on, costs $1.1 million.
Well, it makes sense. We actually had to figure all that out before we could figure out how much it was gonna cost.
That's right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, Mr. Chairs, 43 miles, signage, pavement markings, all the bells and whistles that signify this continuous comprehensive trail.
So
and
we know the first request for that 10 million is gonna be. The next question I had was on, when you're looking at the management groups for, or potential management for the CVTA, I mean, for the Fall Line Trail, have we spoken with whoever's managing the cap to cap and looked at what their operational and what they actually do and how they work in conjunction with VDOT on the management of that trail?
Yeah, and so that's, we did have a Plan RVA staff did an excellent research and report on all the types of management and how the intertwines work. But TAC looked at that and we're still a little like, we still don't really know what. And so we think that if the CAP group would, and any other group would put together how they would propose to manage it, I think that that's helpful to us because then we're not just fishing. They present their best offer to, their best plan to us. And then I think we can present it to you with a recommendation or not a recommendation, whatever you all would like in regard to the management group.
I think the recommendation is gonna have to go to VDOT. Because VDOT's the one who'll have to enter, I mean, overall, because they're the ones who are gonna own all the right of way for all this, if I'm correct, right? So I don't know that the authority here would have the authority to actually enter into that agreement because all of the land, once it's acquired, would be part of the VDOT right-of-way system. Am I correct on that, Mr.
Well, I think we
Davis?
have the caveat with the city to be resolved.
Confirm, but that sounds right.
The city will probably own their part, there's no question about that, but, and Enrico. But I think everybody else, it's gonna be VDOT right-of-way. And so, yeah, we're gonna have to, I guess, negotiate with, or someone's gonna have to negotiate, or they will have to negotiate with both Richmond, Enrico, and VDOT. Am I missing anybody else?
Yeah, I think that sounds good.
That's correct.
Yeah. But it'd be nice to have a plan, quite frankly, to be able to present collectively so that, Enrico can make a decision, Richmond can make a decision with VDOT and come to something that, and I think it's important for all of the CVTA members to have input on that as well because of the 5 jurisdictions that it goes through. So I think the work's very important in what you're gonna come forward with, and it'll make it a lot easier for us to make a decision, or for at least certainly for Richmond and Enrico to make a decision.
So, Mr. Chairman, we have not seen any renderings from any of these potential, have we, or I can't remember?
I have not.
No.
Okay,
The signage.
the signage.
Oh, yes, we have.
I thought, yeah,
I don't remember seeing it.
It hasn't come to the full board yet.
Yeah, so the wayfinding plan is gonna get presented to the full authority, is it August?
August.
Yeah, because we it had to get out of TAC, Lord, it was tied up in TAC. Poor Gladys.
does it
so-
look good?
No, it looks good.
Okay.
Everybody, all of our.
$1 million, I mean, come on.
1.1 million,
$1.1 million, it better look good.
they look great.
This can't be brown,
They're not brown.
Okay, all right.
I think they're blue, and then each locality has like a cool color that matches their seal, which that took a long time, and,
Good. We want people to know that they're in our locality when they're in our locality. Mr. Chairman, I guess yesterday I saw some news clips that, Henrico? Was it Henrico that sort of broke ground or did something yesterday? Soaked up all the press, from my park opening on the riverfront, yesterday, so, that was a big deal. I was like, where's the news stations? And they were all in Henrico for the fall trail.
It was actually, we had a lot of press. I was actually surprised. So we was over
Yeah.
at Lakeside. I think it was at 10:30 yesterday morning.
Yeah. And no news station for us. I was like, what in the world? But I heard they were in Henrico for the opening of the, so we'll let y'all have that this time around.
Thank you.
Well, I think that's spectacular.
Yeah, it was all over the news. I think all 3 stations.
Yeah, spectacular. Anything else?
oh, sorry.
Board members, any other questions?
Mr. Chair,
Mr. McCarthy?
I just have one, so we're talking about management of the Fall Line Trail, are we talking about the maintenance part of it?
combined with that?
So
Like,
the maintenance
is
part,
Riker and Richmond, we take care of the maintenance of these trails themselves? If VDOT has the other localities?
so
How would that
I guess
work?
that question needs to be asked by Henrico, answered by Henrico and Richmond who are here, as to what their plan would be for the maintenance of the Fall Line Trail. Or if we're gonna have to, or we're gonna look at working with, cause again, like you just said, they own,
Big
they'll own those
yeah.
roads and those sections.
I know on the cap trail, I think VDOT handles it on the cap trail. Terrell, what are we doing?
VDOT will maintain the Henrico part of the trail.
Okay.
So we have an MOU with VDOT already in place, so we're building it and then they'll maintain the trail.
That's very kind.
And if I could, we had a similar, the MOU for Richmond, but just with the changing of guards, it wasn't, all the way finalized. And so we have that MOU, and then again, like we said, some of what we were looking for out of the management was, again, looking at, leveraging dollars through fundraising and endowments to help create a maintenance plan. And so that's some of the things we're gonna be looking for in the, in the management plans that we ask them to present to us. So we're very much interested in the maintenance part of it and ensuring that there's some cohesiveness in funding, in taking care of the maintaining the trail. Because we do, like I said earlier, in a previous meeting, that we currently do manage the CAP trail and maintain it. And we definitely would like some consideration for financial assistance in bringing on a new trail in the long-term maintenance of it, so.
Thank you, Mr. Clark.
I guess it's a good question that this was brought up, certainly for VDOT in the future, just to, I guess come back at the full meeting and report on, for instance, how much maintenance dollars they actually set aside each year for the cap-to-cap trail, what they would be looking at for maintenance dollars for this. And then, quite frankly, like you're talking about, if, does there need to be a fund established to assist with that? Certainly on the Wayfinder side, to say that if, because we know, and I hate to be the cynic here, but we know that signs will probably get destroyed and need to be replaced.
Graffitied.
Or even by, weather, trees falling down, knocking signs down, different type of, that's the glass half full guy, as opposed to being destroyed in other ways. But nevertheless, we need to have a plan in place to be able to, fix those in the future when they pop up. And VDOT's really good, at doing that with our stop signs and all of our other signs. It's, at least I can say that when I call them with an issue in Chesterfield, they come out and take care of it right away. And so, they do very well. And so, again, we know that the cost of pavement is not cheap. As tree roots grow years from now, there will be sections of the Fall Line Trail that are going to need to be tore up and repaved. Hopefully, we'll pull enough trees off of them as we do this to have some protection in place where roots won't necessarily grow in right away. But as we see with, the closer proximity to trees, that's just going to be an issue. So, yeah, I think it's asking these questions and then putting a plan in place, I think overall will be very important. And then hopefully Richmond could enter into an MOU with VDOT for their maintenance. That would be, I guess, preferable.
Yeah.
Ms. Parsons.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. That was actually a really good point, and I think it would fit well with the tasks that the TAC is putting together, the fact finding and the research on management policies. So I think I saw Ms. Clark writing it down. We can put that on the TAC agenda for the next meeting.
We good?
One other thread to follow, Ms. Clark reported on the deallocation policy. As you recall, that was a request made at the last Finance Committee meeting, that it be taken over to TAC to add some more detail and information. So we're going to be, Mr. Gerke and I will be working with TAC over the next probably few meetings to put something back together, and then we'll bring it back to the Finance Committee.
Okay, excellent.
Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Appreciate your work today. And your work every day. Because you're the ones that make the world go round for us.
Oh, yeah.
So we appreciate the hard work that TAC does.
You guys have fun meetings online, by the way.
Next up is the quarterly report, Mr. Parsons.
Yes, sir. I had put in the agenda that this will be distributed at the meeting, but following the TAC meeting on Monday, I decided against distributing anything at this point because the request has been put into TAC members to follow up locally to finalize the quarterly reports, and it's too soon, honestly, to share that information. So we wanted to give a little bit of leeway to the localities to put together that final information. So just to let you know, we are working on that, and my intent is to have that at the August meeting for finance to show the quarterly expenditures through the end of fiscal year '24.
Thank you, Mr. Parsons. Any board members, any questions? Not seeing any. Next, under other business, CVTA bond finance validation, Mr. Parsons.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much. This is a follow-up item from the last Finance Committee meeting. We wanted to bring back our friends at Kaufman and Calls to share some information on the process and the next steps in validating a bond issuance when CVTA is ready to do that. Just a little preamble, this is not connected at all to a project list or any bond issuance at this point. This is a separate avenue to essentially make sure that an issuance of bonds from the CVTA is legal and defensible, and Megan is at the table and will be able to talk through what that process would entail, and it can proceed in conjunction, in parallel with development of a bond package, or it can be done separately, just to make sure that CVTA is prepared when that decision is ready to be made. Mr. Gregor, did you have anything else to add?
That's perfect.
Okay.
And
So
this
with
is
that,
an informational
Information item.
topic for us today.
yes, sir.
All right, thank you.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Recognize a few faces from last committee meeting, but here again today to talk about the bond validation process for CVTA to consider. I have my colleague Ben Wills with me this morning. Ben, along with our colleague Eric Blue, we are the Public Finance Group in the Richmond office for Kaufman and Knowles, and we've been engaged to serve as bond counsel to CVTA. So as I mentioned, today's focus is going to be on the bond validation process. This is really sort of the first step in considering a financing structure, is whether or not it makes sense to have that structure considered and validated by a court. As this group is very well aware, CVTA currently utilizes pay-as-you-go financing for its regional transportation needs, but CVTA has the authority, and it's enabled legislation, to issue revenue bonds payable from the CVTF fund to be paid back with that revenue stream. So the point behind the validation proceeding would be to have the structure considered by the court and really kind of stamped as being constitutional and statutorily authorized. Validation proceedings have been taken by other regional transportation authorities in the Commonwealth. The Northern Virginia Transportation Authority had their revenue bond structure validated in 2013. The Hampton Roads Transportation Accountability Commission had the HRTF revenue structure validated in 2016, and then HRTAC also had their tollback validation, their tollback revenue structure validated in 2021. So this is a common thing that you see for these regional tax structures to have them validated. As Mr. Parsons mentioned, having the bond validation done does not in any way obligate the Finance Committee or the full authority to actually engage in issuing debt. It's really just the first step in that process that the group can consider doing if it would like to do so. Any formal authorization for a bond issue would be brought back before the committee, as well as the full authority. So this step does not in any way bind any future decisions on debt issuance. The point behind a validation is to uphold a financing structure from future legal challenge. So it provides comfort to CVTA, it provides comfort to the finance professionals, it provides comfort to future bondholders that there isn't going to be a legal challenge of a bond structure. It would be awkward to have a lawsuit filed in the middle of a financing process. It's not something that I as bond counsel or PFM as financial advisor would like to have to manage, and so this kind of forestalls that issue. Let's see, the validation process is authorized under the under Virginia Code and the Public Finance Act. CVTA can avail itself of this statutory ability to have its bond structure validated. And the court is going to look at, this is really focused on state law requirements, whether CVTA and the debt issue structure is constitutional, and whether the process that's been undertaken meets all statutory requirements. So we're looking at, really looking at state law specific items. The issuer, CVTA in this case, can file a special civil proceeding in a circuit court to validate the bond issuance and related actions that it's taken for a bond transaction. And the applicable circuit court in this case is any general jurisdiction where the issuer is located or has a presence. So we have options on where we would file. The court would analyze the validity of the revenue bonds, the legality of the proceedings that the authority would have taken to date in connection with that revenue bond structure, the validity of the underlying regional taxes that the General Assembly has authorized to flow to CVTF for these regional transportation projects, the validity of that pledge of revenues to pay the debt, and then any covenants or provisions in the bond documents. The court would also review CVTA's statutory authority, its organization and procedures, and even the project selection process. So high level, the court's going to look at the creation of CVTA and the establishment of the transportation fund and confirm that it's constitutional. The court's going to review the legal proceedings for the debt issuance to make sure that they meet all the statutory requirements in Virginia Code. They're going to review the bond structure and the project selection process. The documents that we presented to the court would include form bond documents. We talked a little bit about that last month. There would be a master trust indenture that would serve as sort of the umbrella governing document for all bonds issued by CVTA and would cover some of those high-level covenants that you see in these types of revenue transactions, limitations on additional debts, tests, debt service coverage ratios, reserve funds, and how all that would be structured. And then we would also have a supplement to the master trust indenture form that would be presented to the court. That is the form document that would serve for any specific issue of debt. It would outline, once finalized for a bond issue, it would outline what your debt service requirements are, the projects that have been authorized to be financed with those bonds. Very specific things for a single bond issue will be covered in the supplement. A decree of validation constitutes a permanent injunction against any person coming forward at a later time to contest the validity of the bond. So it serves as that sort of stamp of approval that the bond structure is appropriate and proper. And in the validation process, public citizens are given the opportunity to contest and to be asked to be heard. And then once a validation has been finalized and a circuit court has issued a decree, there's a very limited window of time for an appeal, and then after that, you're enjoined from doing so. So again, it provides that comfort to CVTA. We've included a very high-level timeline in the slides where we anticipate a validation process from start to finish would take up to 6 months, so just something to keep in mind from a timing perspective. There would be presented to the court serviceable drafts of the bond documents, like I mentioned. We would be coming back to the committee and the authority at the appropriate time with resolutions to approve forms of those bond documents for purposes of filing with the court, not necessarily for purposes of issuing the debt. Like I mentioned, that would happen at a later time. But we would ask for those forms to be approved. And we would also have a resolution that initiated the validation process. Other documents that would be prepared in the context of the validation would be a motion for judgment to be filed with the court and a detailed memorandum of law that outlines the legal basis for the financing structure and provides the the support for all of the items I previously mentioned that the court would be analyzing. Once the validation had been filed, we would work with the court to outline sort of a timeline for the required notices that are to be given in the papers and to the public, the scheduling of the hearing, and there's some specific timelines that have to be followed in the Public Finance Act for how those things happen. So we would work with the court to coordinate that. And depending on whether or not there were public citizens that chose to contest, to manage the process with the court on how that hearing and ultimately the filing of a judgment, accepting the motion, the timing for that. And then obviously we've added a little time to the timeline in the unlikely event that there would be an appeal. That would add a few months. That's a very high level sort of overview of the timeline and the process. I'm happy to answer any questions or
Board members, any questions?
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Mayor?
Ms. Gilliland, you said that just a random citizen can appeal?
any citizen in the Richmond region, yes. Mhm.
Okay.
There's a lot of people.
We know something about that a little bit. So,
Yes.
And, board members, any other questions? I think that, I think the CVTA has, having been here since its been inception, has proceeded cautiously as we've moved forward and the way we funded our projects, the way we've set up our policies. And I think this is just another step in that process, moving us forward towards something that could happen in the future or not happen in the future. We have, there's no guarantee that we would issue bonds in the future, but it would be nice to know that where we stand. I'll just give you an example. We just did a bond issuance in Chesterfield County utilizing our regional CVTA dollars. When we advertised it out, it came in as a AA plus rating. We advertised out for $300 million. We had $1.5 billion bids for our bond issuance. I watched Matt's computer click up and up and up and up, and we ended up negotiating it to a 4% interest. So, and that was a AA, which is what I believe we've been evaluated at. And so I think moving forward, to at least get us in a position where if we need to issue bonds, this is just another step forward. Nothing says that we will, but it positions us in the future, and whoever else is, quite frankly, representing the Richmond region on the CVTA in the future, because there's no guarantee we will be here, that we will position the CVTA in the future to continue to be successful. And so I would like to see this report brought before the full body for them to have an opportunity to consider as well, because I think that it's important information. But I would open up any other board members that may have any comments or thoughts.
Mr. Chairman, I was going to ask a question, and that was, how long does the validation last? Does it expire? Does there,
It
okay.
does not expire.
That's all I had.
Mr. Parsons?
Yes, sir. Two questions, I guess, or points. One, we talked about this last month, but I've talked with the executive directors of both of our counterparts in the state, Northern Virginia and Hampton Roads. They both said that going through the validation process was absolutely critical to make sure that CVTA is protected and can move forward when it's ready. So I take that I take that to heart and respect what our partners have said. And the other, I guess, a question for you, Mr. Chair, is given that Chesterfield has recently gone through a process like this, if we bring this Kaufman and Knowles back for the full authority, would you be interested in having an overview of the Chesterfield process?
I think it would be helpful for all of the board members to realize what we just went through. And so, yeah, I would entertain contacting our staff and getting it on the next full agenda, I think August the 9th. To just come and do a presentation that coincides with this. I think having the most information possible for our board members is important. But I would ask other members of the finance committee if you have any thoughts on that as well.
So it's on Chesterfield coming in and talking to us about how to do bonds?
Not how to do bonds, what our experience was recently utilizing our CVTA dollars and what the process was like and what we went through, good and bad. I sat there, but truth of the matter is, we know this, that our staff handles these issues, and they can actually come speak to it in more in depth and perhaps give more information, certainly I could. Because I know that, so any other thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I'm agnostic. I think the more information that the authority can get, the better. At the end of the day, I don't want anyone feeling as if they don't have enough information at their disposal.
That's the way I feel about it. I think that, in order for them to make an informed decision, you have to have all of the information. There's two ways to do this. One, we can just schedule this report to be on the agenda for the full authority as an information. Or we can entertain a motion here in the finance committee to endorse the process forward. Or we can just wait and see what the entire board thinks at a meeting and then let them digest it for a while and then move forward from there. So I'm open to any of that. What I don't want to feel like I'm trying to pressure anybody to do anything they don't want to do. But again, I would open the thoughts of the finance committee members as how they feel about it. Perhaps we need more time to think about it.
So we're gonna do an informational next
Yep.
at the authority meeting?
Mm-hmm.
I think that would be appropriate.
Okay. Anybody else?
I agree with the mayor.
Okay. All right, we'll move forward, if you don't mind being at our next meeting to
course.
do a full presentation for the full CVTA board and be prepared to answer any questions that they may have. We appreciate you being here today and bringing this information forward. Again, this is just us moving forward with the steps necessary to put the CVTA in the best position forward. One of the things that we've learned, quite frankly, is that each day that we wait to do a project, the cost continues to go through the roof. And so, if we have some regional projects or big projects in the future that we need to fund, at least we'll be in a position to say we can or we can't. And so we appreciate you coming forward today.
Of course.
Thank you. CVTA Finance Committee members, does anybody actually have any other comments or questions or thoughts that they'd like to share with the group today?
I saw the minutes from the June meeting. It mentioned TAC was putting together a wish list for possible bond items. Did I miss that conversation?
No, sir, they're still working on that. We don't have anything ready to present at this point.
But at this point, we don't have any projects teed up and ready for bond.
No, sir. No, I mean, I think that there are certainly priorities, but we haven't had a formal discussion at the TAC about which ones would.
All right, thank you.
Any other board members?
Mr. Chair, when's the next full commission meeting?
August the 9th, I believe, is what's scheduled for the full CVTA, and then, as you can see, on the 14th for the Finance Committee immediately following. All right. Anything else? Not seeing anything else come for us. I think that's a record. We're finished in under an hour.
Good job.
A motion to adjourn. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All right, I will second it. All those in favor of adjournment, signify by saying aye.